I actually want to start with a poem. So this is what we're going to do for our attunement today. So whatever that looks like for you, if you want to close your eyes, if you want to, well, whatever just is, this is to help bring us into presence. It's actually a poem that Natasha shared, who's in the community. So you can go into the school group and read this if you would like. It's a poem from Island by Aldous Huxley, and it's called Lightly. It's dark because you are trying too hard. Lightly, child, lightly. Learn to do everything lightly. Yes, feel lightly, even though you're feeling deeply. Just lightly let things happen and lightly cope with them. I was so preposterously serious in those days. Lightly, lightly. It's the best advice given to me. So throw away your baggage and go forward. There are quicksands all about you, sucking at your feet, trying to suck you down into fear and self-pity and despair.
Mhm.
That's why you must walk so lightly. Lightly, my darling. And just letting those words permeate our being. Where are you succumbing to that quicksand sucking at your feet, pulling you down into fear? Or a big one for me, pulling you down into self-pity. And where do you feel in your body a layer deeper than that? A knowing that all of that is a gift. We won't learn the lessons that we need to learn unless we're brought to the edge. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do here, and I'm not going to do this every time, but right now it feels important because of the changes and the shifts that are happening, both in the world and in this group. And I know for me, um, I need to feel safe to engage in this work. Like if I do not feel safe, I cannot allow my higher self to shine through. It's just too difficult. The lower nature just gets too loud. And part of creating that safety is creating a container where we feel safe. And part of that is shared agreements. And so I'm going to read our agreements out loud right now. Um, and as I said, I won't do this every time, but it feels really important to me right now. This is largely coming from the Gene Keys Noble Code. So you can give that a Google if you want to see what the Gene Keys Noble Code proper is, because I think they did just an amazing job at capturing what it means to hold a container. So I invite you to hold these to the best of your ability, of course, in the container, but also in your life. I think these are rules or agreements that can be really, really helpful in the outer world. In all our interactions, we agree to hold the standard for one another, and we welcome being challenged. This means conflict is encouraged so long as there is positive intent. These exchanges, when paired with a growth mindset, lead to our evolution and eventual manifestation of our Dharma. The fine art of equilibrium. In all my communications and approaches to decision making, I strive to balance the following: listening and sharing, freedom and boundaries, self care and service, honesty and kindness, mysticism and ordinariness, conflict and positive intent. The guidelines. Number one, intention. I intend to keep my heart and mind as open as possible. I wish to grow and learn from all my interactions, even uncomfortable or challenging ones. Number two, frequency and tone. I make every effort to share with others in a respectful and empathic manner. I acknowledge when my own worldview is temporarily influenced by fear or self-limiting thoughts. Three, respectful feedback. I communicate with others in a way that I myself would wish for. I'm willing to listen to constructive feedback and work with it. 4, honesty. I'm fully committed to being aware of and working with my own shadow material. I recognize that every relational issue I face has a secret higher purpose and holds some deep and valuable lesson for me. 5, integrity. I'm committed to the expansion of human consciousness and my own personal growth. I work to recognize and change the limiting attitudes and behaviors that I've learned over time. I reach out for help when I need it. 6, orientation and synchronicity. When I have a need to share something with someone, I take responsibility for choosing the right environment and timing for the communication. I trust in the greater good that will come from this sensitive approach. 7, peace and conflict, and there are 10 of these. 7, I understand that disagreements are stepping stones towards a healthy, evolving community. I make every effort to resolve conflicts when they arise. When I'm not able to do this on my own, I reach out for support, facilitation, or mediation. 8, intimacy and gentleness. I commit to the great task of returning non-love with love. I work alongside others to co-create a feeling of deep safety that allows for all feelings to be felt and embraced. Number 9, transparency. I hold myself and others accountable to the agreements we make, and when there has been confusion, I engage in communications that increase clarity and a shared sense of purpose for all involved. Number 10, repair and patience. I acknowledge when my words or actions have hurt others, and I offer heartfelt apologies when appropriate. I trust in the natural process of healing and reconciliation without placing any expectations on others. By embodying the spirit of the above guidelines, I honor the essence of the Gene Keys teachings to help us transform the challenging moments in relationships into opportunities for greater intimacy and growth. In doing so, may we all co-create a new yardstick for humanity, a future based on individual virtue, nourished by communal care, and aiming at nothing less than global spiritual realization. And finally, the Gene Keys approach, a path of gentle transformation. And these are tools for our personal journey. And the Gene Keys approach invites us to develop our humility through embodying the 4 qualities that lie at the heart of the Gene Keys. 1, contemplation, taking full responsibility for one's inner state, using everyday challenges for growth and transformation. 2, inquiry, asking the profound introspective questions and inviting wisdom to come from within, cultivating a state of presence in all situations. Gentleness, nurturing a kind and gracious approach towards self and others, encouraging a spirit of unwinding and unlearning versus striving and fixing. And finally, patience, cultivating compassion, honesty, and curiosity with an inherent trust in the underlying process. And that is the end of our agreements. Does anybody have any input, any feedback, anything that came up during those agreements that you would like to voice, share, something that you disagree with, something that you think needs to be shifted or changed? This is not top down. I think that's really important. This is us. This is our group. This is our fractal. And this is our chance to really make an impact in the world together.
I have something that I got from that.
Please.
So on number 8, when you mentioned returning non-love with love, that really struck me, because sometimes in my relationships, I guess with my husband, I tend to go quiet and go away when I'm receiving non-love, instead of, I disengage instead of realizing what something I have done may have caused his feeling of non-love, So, so just more accountability on my side.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. And please give to take it back to some of the Gene Keys approach here, gentleness with self in that process, because returning non-love with love is I mean, it's the lesson that we're here to learn at the core, you know, and it takes, I think, many, many lifetimes to be able to get to a place where we really and truly have an ability to do that all the time. So thank you for sharing and be kind, you know, and I took that as you being kind. I just want to remind
Yeah,
you.
try to. Oh, and also I just wanted to mention too, when you were talking about um, walking lightly and the seriousness, I have gene key 46 in my relating sphere, and I was kind of unclear on how that related, but that really helped me understand,
Yeah.
seriousness aspect and walking lightly. I thought that was very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. That word actually jumped out at me too, because I too have 46. It's in my IQ. So yeah, very much a good reminder.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. Yeah, what's up, dude? Welcome.
Can I speak now?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
what
yeah.
you calling me? I know my name is different on there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm glad that I'm sorry I didn't catch the last verse. Carla mentioned the walking lightly, and part of me wanted to speak when you gave that opportunity concerning that, but then just when you read this, what came up for me is this gentleness also, and again, just how critical, how important. Because I too yesterday found myself in this crazy, like just deeply inner challenging place. And I think finally an illumination went off, like of this gentleness approach, where a lot of times I push myself too hard, or because of my lack of things happening on the outside as fast as this gentleness and patience, they flow into one, or gentleness and patience. Um, and patience, gene key 5 is my sphere of SQ, so it's been a powerful theme. um, and I was just in that gentleness all day. I did things completely different. I just let it be.
Mm.
And I'm a Tai Chi practitioner, and I kid you not, I practiced just walking softly yesterday. So when you read that poem, I was like, oh my gosh, like, should I share this? Like, I challenge anybody, if you're in a place, practice just walking like as softly, like each step, and just see what comes up in you from doing that exercise alone. It's a powerful experience. So, yes to gentleness and patience above all else.
Beautiful.
I'm
Thank you,
complete.
brother. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there's so in some of the Eastern meditation traditions, there's what's called walking meditation. And I think a lot of people see walking meditation as just going for a walk. And that is one way to do a walking meditation, right? To just kind of have an open awareness and go for a walk. But the traditional walking meditation is actually done incredibly slowly, like each step taking 30 seconds, you know, and rocking the weight from the heel of the foot to the midfoot to the forefoot to the toes, and feeling the other foot lift up off the ground and slowly articulate forward, and feeling it come back into the ground. And the idea is to use all of that present moment sensation as a means of fully surrendering into the now. And so if you've never done that, I've only done it a handful of times, honestly, but when I have, it definitely is impactful.
Yeah,
So thank you for sharing, dude.
yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and Tai Chi, there's this form we call it cloud stepping, where you just kind of emulate like each step, like you're stepping on a very gently, like on a cloud.
Yeah,
And for the same process of just like exactly like you described, get to that emptiness. So
yeah,
yeah, beautiful.
totally. Thank you. Yes, my dear Mac, good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you. Um, the word that kind of shouted out to me was the word conflict.
Mm.
And trying to resolve it with ourselves, and it suggested conflict with others. But what I've kind of been contemplating just after you said it was more about conflict within ourselves. Like, I've been doing this project which has raised so many doubts, fears, really given me an opportunity to trust in a whole different level, or different levels than I have done before. And I'm a reflector, and so the moon can affect me really profoundly. And when the gate 48, which I do have in my SQ, 94, when the gate hit yesterday, I just felt this great sense of doubt. And it was conflict of, yes, I realize I need to surrender because I've not been able to do any more work to it. And I know it's pointless forcing. And I've been doing other things and doing where my curiosity is leading and doing some more research, but it's not kind of fully landed in. And it's that conflict between feeling the pressure that I have a time limit, which is the middle of the month, to have it all finished, as well as having edited the videos and sent them off, and having this pause, which I don't know how long. It's like entropy. I don't know how long it's going to say. And there's that conflict between this pressure and this inner conflict, and that kind of friction within myself. But kind of another layer to that is my relationship with my brother, who is looking after my aunt, and she's the only person left out of that generation. And she's deteriorated fast. And it sounds as if she's quite near death. And my brother, he's a 2-4, and he is saying he's totally fine, but I know from his text and feeling the energy that he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that, and I'm his named person to look out for him. He has a psychiatric condition, so I kind of really need to be on the ball by that. Anyway, so there's that kind of pressure too, which is underlying it, and feeling inadequate because I feel helpless at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't want me to ask questions or contact, because he's so involved with my aunt. So that's another kind of conflict that's overlaying. Yeah. So it's good to share that. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those. I can't remember what you called them.
Agreements.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Losing words.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing, Mac. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
And of course, yeah, I mean, I think the conflict that we see in the outer world right now, the conflict that is manifesting internally in Mac and what is showing up in our external world, all of that is driven by this internal conflict. It's if we can resolve our internal conflict, the world heals. My camera's jumpy. Is my audio jumpy for you guys, or is it just the camera? It's just the camera. Okay. Here. I'm ready. I'm gonna get ugly in a click. Here we go. Ready? Ah! Ah, back on the computer webcam. Terrifying. But yeah, it's what we see in the world is a manifestation of internal conflict. That's the name of the game. If you want to heal the world, heal yourself. Okay. I want to do a quick check-in, and I realized that I dropped the ball on this. I just remembered it this morning, actually, from the talk that we had about this last week, but I'm going to ask the question again, and then this time I am actually going to make the post, I promise. What can I make, build, do? What kind of calls do you want to see? What kind of material, videos would be helpful? Like, what can I do in this group to, and I don't just mean on these calls, although that also I'm open to hearing, but like within the synarchy itself, what would you like to see, whether that be from me or other members of the group?
One thing that I was thinking that would be helpful is getting into a gene key, like one by one, where we maybe have a conversation about just one gene key and discuss other people's opinions, reads on the gene key itself, because you read the books, you listen to the audios, of course, but it's the lived experience that I think makes the interpretation more rich. And I only have access to my own interpretations, which is obviously limited, but this is the perfect group to bring one gene key and just listen to each other's interpretations. And I think that would be really useful.
Beautiful. I absolutely love that idea. Okay, so follow on question for Lily. Yeah, exactly. Is do we do this with the pulse where it's whatever the transit is and we just do it week by week, or does that feel like too tight of a window? Like, do we want to do it month by month so we have more time with a specific key? Like, what does that bring up for you guys?
I don't know how extensive this would be, but it'd be kind of cool to see if there were any common ones that stood out in the group.
Okay.
So if there was a way to take a poll, or
Yeah.
I don't know, like if people listed them out and if there was an easy way to do a form that brought everything together, it's like, holy cow, like 75% of people have 47 in this group.
Yes.
Maybe there's a greater purpose to us coming together than what we realize.
Dude, what a good idea. I love that. Yeah, I'll throw together like a Google something and put it in the group. And it'll just be like maybe a 1 to 3 question survey, basically. And one of them will be on, gene keys that you have. I'll figure that out. Yes, I really, really love that idea. And I'll figure out a way to make it happen. Thank you. Yeah, stats, you nerd.
Yeah, I also like that idea. And I do like, I don't know, I don't know if it's just, I'm speaking and maybe this will resonate on land with anybody. I've really been tuning in just to the pulse, to the one that's in transit.
Yep.
And I'm having like these crazy, beautiful synchronicity of like what's kind of happening with the energy. Like, for example, the state I found myself, I had gone through 39 provocation and I felt this intense provoking energy, and it was coming from this deep, deep sense of like, again, this shadow aspect of I'm not good enough, like I'm a failure, all these old voices that I thought I dealt with, and yet here they are like rising up into my like. And he talks about in that energy that provoking you into a sense of like, rather than provoking you to react or something, it was like provoking you to like actually get out there and like make the shift inside yourself or do whatever. And the same thing, like the stillness, the restraint before was like a big revelation that came through yesterday too. Was like, no, the seeds of your intention are all you need. Sometimes you just need to like back off, and we tend to force things prematurely, which can disrupt the soil, the germination process. So that brought me back into the whole gentleness. But I just don't know if, or is anybody else having like experience? I've had this like with the last 4 or 5, it seems like each one that comes up, all of a sudden manifests in my life that I'm like, oh, how powerful is this that like we're transiting through and here I am like face to face with whatever shadow.
Dude, okay, so I'm doing this too this year. Last year I committed to reading the Bible, right? And I got like a reading plan and I just read the Bible cover to cover. And that was like my kind of daily devotional practice. This year, I committed to with the you guys aren't gonna be able to see it because I got the crappy camera, but I committed to following the pulse each week and reading the gene key twice and like really underlining like you guys should see my copy of the gene keys. It's pretty wild. And listening to the audio twice. So each week I'm doing 2 and 2. And I am getting to a point where I'm like, do I want to keep fucking doing this? Because it just keeps dragging me through whatever the shadow is for that particular transit. So, dude, I resonate so deeply with what you were saying. And I've also noticed a so many synchronicities that show up as I am in that particular key. So, like, for example, I just finished Mickey Singer, who wrote Untethered Soul, if you're familiar with that book, Surrender Experiment. And then I don't know if it's his latest, but it's one of the ones that I hadn't read. It's called Living Untethered, which is kind of like the sequel to Untethered Soul. And in that book, he does a lot of talking about energy blockages in the body, right? And sanskaras and energy trying to move through, but it gets blocked. And we're actually going to come back around this later on. Um, and so I finished that book like the day before yesterday. And then we jump into 39, which is all about blockages in the body and having the energy to push those blockages up and to be able to stick with it. So that's a really long way of saying, yes, I'm with you and I feel you.
That's so beautiful. This is almost the same thing. Like I'm a big dream arc person, and I've been bitten by a tick. Just really quickly, the powerful transmission in the tick says you are blocked at the core. So before, like the day before the 39th, same thing. I was like, okay, I'm blocked. Show me, like I just said, okay, show me where I'm blocked. Same thing. I replayed that audio and the same reaction when this is all about removing blockages. I was just like, I love it. I love this power of synchronism.
Can't make it up. I had a crazy synchronicity story from my moment of suffering that I basically didn't want to be a human anymore yesterday. And then I had 3 different things around commitment, one of which was a dream, one of which was Courtney, one of which was one of the people that I work with, all brought up commitment, all within 12 hours of one another, all in a really deep level. It was wild. Mac.
Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering about if this is about improving our ascension as leaders, then I'm thinking we have all got skills. How can we use our skills to contribute to the group, to aid
Yes.
the group when it's appropriate? Because I was thinking about what can I do, and I'm inconsistent. And sometimes I'll be there and sometimes I'm not. So there's that. And there's also, because I'm a reflector, and hopefully there's other reflectors in the group. But we tend to see things before they happen, before generally other people see them or know about them. And that's another thing I could do, say, for example, if I notice anything that's possibly in disharmony with the group or is in conflict with what our aims are, etc. If I could highlight it, that's something that I could do.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I just
Yeah.
wonder how much other people can contribute and
Yeah.
yeah, because we all have different skills.
And my intention around this specific piece is twofold, maybe threefold. I've got two in mind. Maybe a third one will show up as I'm talking. The first is just we all have unique life experiences, unique lenses, and unique things that pop into our field. And so when something pops into your field that creates a moment of awe or creates a moment of breakthrough or a pivot or a merge, I would love for you to share that into the group just as a post, because I think that if it happened for you, there's likely other people with a similar life experience that potentially can be helped by that thing. So that's one thing. If it gets really crazy where there's just like a million links every week because so many people are doing this, which would be beautiful and amazing, and I would love that. What I would do is create like a weekly post that's basically like comment your resources that you found for this week on this post. And then that way it's like a thread within a post instead of all these random posts all over the place that you got to scan through and find them. So we'll kind of see to make sure that it doesn't feel overwhelming for people how that plays out. But that's one way. The second thing is I have every intention. I actually made a pitch. I'm gonna leave this person nameless right now, but I made a pitch yesterday for someone that is deep in the land of astrology to come in and to do a teaching around astrology. So we hold a call and we have a subject matter expert come in and share their particular approach or their view. And so we can do this with astrology. I've got plans to do this we've got two people in the group now that are family constellation practitioners. I know we've got some Akashic record people here. Like we've got lots of different area, Qigong and Tai Chi, lots of different areas of expertise. And I fully intend to have people come in and share their wisdom. So that's another way, Mac, that this is gonna I intend to source the wisdom and the genius of the group to further the group. And a third one didn't come. So I'll let that be for two for now. Carla, did you have something? I saw you were up and then back down.
Oh, well, yeah, I just kind of building off of Lily and your question about the group and some things to cover. I've been looking at the gene keys. I have 3 kids, so not super devoted to it, but as much as I can. And one of the things that helped me that may be an easy exercise for a group is working on the pathways. Like they have like those sentences where you can plug in your gene key. For instance, like the pathway of initiative and postponement. When I give way to the shadow of my distraction, I block the flow between myself and the community. When I take the initiative through the gift of enrichment, I feel the communal support of the gift of my inquiry. Like I've put these on these little cards, and for me, it's like really helped. And I think it might be like an easy way for us to sort of all like talk about one pathway and then kind of share our various experiences with our own particular gene keys. So sort of building off of what Lily said, but instead of like, key by key, maybe more of, how it relates to us individually.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. We could do that with pathways. We could even do that with spheres too. Like we'll just say like radiance and then we can kind of get into it that way. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And just FYI for people that aren't in the Star Pearl, what Carla just read, I'm going to try and help Gene Keys out. I can't talk about Star Pearl. They asked us not to on like a deep level. But what I can say is that those sentences that Carla just read are a tool that come from the Star Pearl, and they just help bring life to your Gene Keys and to your pathways. And the Star Pearl has been incredibly helpful and incredibly difficult for me, but definitely worth the time. Yeah, yeah. What's up, Ryan?
Unmute myself again.
Go for it.
And my name on there is KZL, kind of like the Archangel. I'm wrestling around with this name change thing as I've gone through like this very transformative journey the last couple of years. But I'm really inspired by this group and this whole concept of synarchy. And as I think we're still obviously at the ground level in the incubation phase of a lot of new structures and new systems that we are responsible for. We have the codes in us of like bringing into the world. So at some point maybe, and I'm part of another group that's titled like Build a New World Collaboration. The same thing. It's like we're just kind of brainstorming, but like somebody had a great idea of like everybody kind of sharing if anybody's had like a vision or dream of like what New Earth is or what their role in it is, or what, again, to express and share what you believe or what the universe has told you, like your role, because we all have a role to play. For example, like this is me stepping into a deep vulnerability of like this expanding vision or dream of I've had coming from my background being a first responder and being immersed face to face in the deepest of suffering, poverty, homelessness, that catalyzed my whole transformation. So and a vision dream was planted in me back then before I even knew what the gene keys was. And it actually startled me when I got my gene key profile and saw it. My ego's like, I wanted nothing to do with it because it was terrifying to him. But like of building like a global philanthropic hub called the Heal Humanity Project or foundation or something like that, where we are all philanthropists. It's service based, donation based. There are people out there. Like to me, a big system failure that I see is people that need some of the mental health services the most don't have access to it. This current system is not serving humanity.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how do we build? So a lot of my thought and what comes to me is geared towards that. Another big area for me is this restructuring and rebuilding a new childhood education system, focused around, and specifically a program too for like autistic. I have like 5 nephews, like in my immediate, like between my siblings that all have, and the parents just are at wit's end and don't have the resources to raise these incredibly genius gifted children that are very misunderstood and are falling through the cracks, so those are a couple of my areas. Maybe at some point where this is going is like, if anybody has like one of these passion projects or just something that's burning inside them that, like me, they've had this fear of like even speaking it out there. So I'm exercising the pearl of like, stepping into my sphere of like both culture, like you are all my culture, of saying like, maybe we can form little mastermind groups centered around these different like structures, whether we see the impending structure collapse or system collapse and like what's kind of going to come in. And I don't know, that's just what kind of is coming out of me right now is at some point as we each kind of share like maybe a statement of who we are and this is what I see and how I can play a role. I feel like I'm a person that at some point, I'm a sixth line, and I don't say this with any kind of, believe me, I don't want to say this, but it's been part of this dream percolating inside of me that at some point a windfall of like capital will come through me, like for the purpose of this distributing money as energy and money as potential. And money is not like the old world money, but money where wealth, creating a future where wealth is shared and distributed rather than hoarded and and stockpiled, and where it serves life. And that a focus above all, the feminine, restoration of the feminine divine, or the feminine energy, like that's the healing power of the planet, is going to come through the feminine, the healing of the patriarchy, the healing of the masculine wound, men healing it in ourselves.
Yeah.
Women being, because I've struggled and I've said it's unforgivable. Like when I look at humanity, all I see is the destruction of the masculine. It's unforgivable. And yet the paradox is that it is only through the city of forgiveness that, and I'm a fifth line core wound, so guilt is my core wound. And man, I've wrestled deep, and it like is a deep one for me. But like, anyway, so maybe at some point, like in the future, there's little pods based on whatever your passion or interest in, to develop the synarchy. That's like, this is the synarchy. This is us organizing ourselves as a collective, as a single consciousness. So yeah, I'm going to stop there.
Brilliantly said, Kaziel. Brilliantly said, dude. Like, that's the point of this group. This is what I hope comes from here. It's not to learn about the fucking gene keys. They're great. They can help us a lot. They will help us develop and grow, and it can serve as an anchor and a structure of support. But ultimately, this is about doing your work out in the world, which starts with doing your work inside of yourself for clarity. And when you're ready, bringing that out into the world. And you will need help. We are designed where we each have a piece. And getting to a place of trust and safety where you trust the other people to take their piece with your baby, with you, what you feel like is your work in the world, at least for me, is incredibly difficult. And so, yes, finding like visions and combining forces. And this is why, another reason why I want to have people speak their, their zone of genius, their expertise for the entire group. Because then we start to identify these different people that hold these different pieces. And when you are building something and you need someone that's really good at neuroscience, that's really good at breath work, that's really good at, you name it, you know that there's this person in this group that holds this skill that you can reach out to and either get wisdom from them or ask them to be a part of your thing. Like, that's what I want here. And just to speak into that a little bit more, I recommend, if you haven't sat with the 11th gene key, the gift is idealism. And it's all about manifesting your spiritual ideal on this planet, right? Eden is not out there. It's in here. It's heaven on earth. And we can build it, I promise. But you've got to be really connected to that spiritual ideal. And that's exactly what Kaziel was just talking about, is this, like, what is your spiritual ideal? You got to do that work first and have the courage to share it like he just did. And then that's the pathway of initiative to bring it into Gene Keys. And now you, the culture, are going to respond to that. And in that response is where the growth comes from. Did you have something else you wanted to say, dude? I saw you unmute and then I kept talking.
No, I think that's all. And thank you for bringing, that's actually power. I will say this concerning the 11th gene key, and that's my radiance actually, and it's one that it took me a long time to like really understand, and like, what is this? How is this coming through me or speaking to me. And it really is like, you know, living with an ideal at the center, at the core of my life. And that ideal, which again was a thing that came to me before, was like, I am a powerful force of peace, unity, and love to heal the world, to heal humanity through compassionate service, uh, compassionate service, philanthropy, and just awakening the shared divinity within all of us. Which I know is but it's just an ideal. It's just, we all just need to come up with like a one-liner that we anchor in that like, and from that will flow. So yeah,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, thank you.
that's all.
And just another piece of the puzzle here. So I wish Courtney was on here right now. She's a room over, and she was on a call with one of the people that we go deep with right before this. So she said she might be on, might not. But so she is in medicine, right? And works in a really big hospital system. And her passion within that system is to, one of them anyway, is to help build peer support structures. So, meaning for these bits of society that are often overlooked or neglected, First Nations peoples, BIPOC folks, people struggling with addiction across the board. She, for example, trains doulas in each of those areas so that somebody with the same lived experience can go and be a doula for somebody that is in that same space, right? And that's just one of many things that she has going on. Ultimately, what she's building is a system that allows for people who care to do the caring and, as important, to be cared for. Because so often the ones that are doing the caring, especially in like a big medical system, just get treated like absolute garbage. Especially like the community support people, the peer support people. I mean, the doctors have it hard, but then you go down and it's even a little bit more gnarly. And so I share this because she is kind of moving or transitioning into a place where she is the same, dude. Like she really wants to help these marginalized communities, and they just don't have money, right? Like not all, of course, but broad strokes, like money is an issue. And what she realized is that like to change the system, we have to move through the system. That's the reason that she has not left the medical system yet. Like she's realizing that she's going to have to go to these big systems and she's going to have to talk to them in language that they know and understand, right? By doing this, you're going to save X amount of dollars. You're going to have less employee turnover, all of this stuff so that they will pay for the things that then can go to the people that actually need it. And so I just want to bring a sense, and this is probably my 60th gift of realism, like bringing that, because that's what we need to balance the ideal with, right? Is a sense of realism and a sense of making sure we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, basically. You know, it's got to be an inside job. There's too much money and too much power. Like there's just, it either is going to blow up, which, well, we're kind of on that road, or we're going to go through the middle and figure out a way to use it and leverage it for something else. So thank you, dude. Anything else? That was a good little thread. Anything else to kind of circle it back to things that you would like to see or that you want to leverage within the group? I know I saw Ryan posted about guided healing work, and I'm on board with that. That's absolutely. Ryan, just for clarity, are you meaning like energy type work, like somebody that's like an energy worker to come in and kind of do that kind of work? Like, what are you referencing there?
Any of it.
Okay.
Any of it. It's all good. So I think there's, everyone has their own way of approaching it. But like you said, with so many different expertise, I'm sure that we could find it in many different avenues.
For sure. Okay. Heard. Thank you. All right. So we'll close this thread unless does anybody have anything last moment? Yeah, Cheryl, please.
Just to go, it goes right back to the beginning, the seriousness
Mm,
poem you wrote, I really related to. It's my 46 is my culture
mm.
thing. That the and I just wondered how many people today have that gene key in their profile.
I do. Hand up if you
Hmm.
got 46. Sonia, me,
Anywhere.
Cheryl.
Hmm.
Looks
Three.
like that's it. Just the three of
That's it.
us.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, four.
Interesting.
Yeah, I forgot Carla had it too. So
Hmm.
four of us.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what Kaz is saying twice, I'm taking Tai Chi. I love the analogy of the clouds, doing clouds as if walking on clouds. I'll use that. Thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank
Hmm.
you, Cheryl. Okay, just to close that thread down, what I'm going to do in the group is I'm going to make a post that just says, do some thinking around what you would want to see in the group and post below if anything pops up. So if there's anything that you didn't speak today, or for anybody that wasn't here, obviously, that'll be another opportunity that will help me kind of build things in a direction that is the most useful for everyone here. Okay. I wanted to talk today about transitions. So good timing because we're in a transition moment right this second. And obviously, or maybe not so obviously, this is coming from the transition that I'm currently walking through at this moment. And it's popped up in conversations with some of the other people that I get to talk to and work with. So, by a show of hands, who feels like they are currently moving through a transition in their lives? I'm just curious. Most. Okay.
Hmm.
Interesting. So I wonder, it's so intriguing to me. I wonder if this is like our fractal that is thrown into this at the moment, or if it's global, or if like I'm always curious to know how wide this net goes. And I'll never know because my fractal are the people I engage with and talk to. So it's hard to know for sure. Okay. So, with that being the kind of base here, understanding that we're all going through these transitions, what I wanted to do was speak into my understanding of transitions and some tools that I've been able to use to get through difficult transitions and provide space for people to be seen and heard in the difficulty that they are going through in whatever transition it is that you're moving through. That's kind of my intention here. So when I first sat down to think about this, the first thing that popped into my mind was transitions as a cleansing. And immediately it was transitions as a cleansing similar to the Bardo states. So I'm going to speak into the Bardo state for a second for those that are not familiar with that language. So Bardo state comes from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Richard talks about this in the 22nd gene key. So if you want to dig in a little bit more deeply, you can find this information inside of the 22nd. And basically, what happens, the Bardo state is where we go immediately after our physical body passes. We go into this realm that is kind of an in-between realm. Before we're back to God, here's Courtney. Before we're back to God, before we are coming back to the planet, it's just this space that things get separated and things get cleaned and things get sorted. So to take it to your subtle bodies, so you've got physical, astral, mental, causal, Buddhic, atmic, monadic. The three lower bodies, physical, astral, mental, what happens is there is this separation that occurs. where all of the high vibe, high frequency thoughts and feelings that were a part of your incarnation get sucked up into your soul. So they get sucked up into the piece of you that is reincarnating over and over and over again. And in that way, our soul gets a little bit brighter with each reincarnation, a little bit more light, a little bit closer to union. There and P.S. I do believe there are incarnations where we can take some steps backwards. So it's not always forward necessarily, but it's this bringing into self. And for me, a transition, that's what's being asked, right? It's this, what needs to be sorted, what needs to be kicked out, and what needs to be pulled into you so that you can double down and bring it forward. Actually, it speaks really, really well to the 30-second gift of preservation, which is all about looking at your past and deciding, what can I bring forward? Instead of seeing something as a failure, I'm pulling the parts that I can still use into me. So that's what happens with the higher nature stuff. The lower nature stuff, when we're in the Bardo states, gets kicked out because we can't take it with us. It's too dense. It's too heavy. We can't go back into union, into wherever our souls are going when we leave here. And so it gets kicked back into the collective. And when Richard talks about the junk DNA or the non-coding DNA, his belief and the teaching of the gene keys, and it seems to make sense and be intuitively true for me, is that that stuff lives inside all of us in that 90% of non-coding DNA. And those of us that have agreed to walk a spiritual path in life, there is a process where we need to transmute our own karma. And then at a certain point, we can begin to transmute that world karma. We can begin to transmute that junk DNA and all that stuff that got kicked back out. And in that way, the whole, the collective is getting brighter and brighter and brighter and moving closer and closer and closer to God. So we've got these two dynamics. We've got the individual soul getting brighter and we've got the collective getting brighter. And so for me, a transition is all about this, seeing the light sides of ourself and the collective and seeing the dark sides of ourself and of the collective. And we have a choice point in that moment. When this transition, this negredo, this darkness, this thing that just comes into our life that we didn't ask for, when it shows up, we can either surrender to it and allow all of that stuff to suck up into all that higher energy, to suck up into ourselves, to give us the courage, because we feel such a strong pull to raise the frequency of the collective, or we go back to our old way of being. And just to reduce the shame or the guilt here, going back to the old way of being is also a means of learning, right? We're just going back so that we can learn more. It's not a failure. It's just we need to keep that refining process happening. Any questions on the Bardo states or this idea of how Bardo state is similar to transition, or just anything that wants to speak into that, because that's a kind of big and weighty subject. Yeah, go ahead, Salima, please.
I can't find my hand to show. So
That's
I
okay.
put it right. About the transition. And that's, I think it's also personal. I keep it personal for myself, because in my surroundings, nobody is familiar with gene keys or consciousness or whatever. So I can't speak my language with them. So I keep it to myself. And I noticed, and perhaps it's to do something with my age, I don't know, but I feel this strong need for celebration.
Mm.
for celebrating what is. And it's a feeling, I like to work with images. It's like you're on the bike. I don't know if anyone is going on the bike, but anyway, I'm from the Netherlands. I bike. And when I'm moving, and I'm observing, and I'm going to nature. Because I'm going to nature, I have this really strong sense of God is watching and saying it's good. That feeling, and that's why I don't want to have so many attractions for other stuff, but that's the feeling. It's rising, and I need to keep it simple. And I adore to be silence, no music, or of course there's always noise, but you know what I mean, eh? But silence in my heart. And I think, oh dear, I always felt in my life the responsibility for all the bad stuff and all the suffering of the world. So this is new to me, and I know that's my belief. I only can change the world when I change, and I leave it to I leave it to God. So and I'm doing volunteering work for 4 decades, always, and also in simple ways. People talk about huge things. I like simplicity. So when I see a neighbor, he's not able to do his garden, I do his garden without talking. When I see an elderly couple in my street, very, very, I don't know the word, old and fragile, very fragile, I give my phone number if I can do something. And it took 3 years, and then I got a call, and it ended up a funeral, transition to another home. So this is the attitude for me. And I need to be myself. And I feel this need of transition, of celebrating. And that's new for me. And I just watched people killed in Gaza on the news for getting food, just getting food. And they got killed. And my heart aches, but I know I can't change it. But my empathy is growing. That is my empathy. That's the only thing I can do. Empathy, hoping it's in going in the other dimensions. But I can't change that all. I can't do that all. So for me, I just speak for myself. I need simplicity. I need images. I need celebration. And that's perhaps strange for you, but that's what I need. That's about my transition. I talked to 2 women outside, not really just 2 women, nothing to do with consciousness. And they also have this feeling of in a sort room of waiting, a sort of waiting room. Something is going to happen. They don't know what. They also sense this feeling of there's a change coming up. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, Salima, thank you. I just want to take a pause at that moment. There is just so much wisdom in those words. I want to just take a second and just take that in. Just if you have your eyes closed, if you can, I just want to look into, and I know this will be kind of tricky because we've got cameras and it's hard to see into people's eyes, but I want you to look at the faces and the eyes of the people that are on this call. I want you to feel what it would mean to move through the world like Selima if somebody went out of their way to just help you. Forget about all the big stuff. That's beautiful too. But the way that we get out of this mess is to look each other in the eyes and to help. Okay, thank you. Mac, my dear.
Thank you. Just speaking firstly about what's been said, is I've been in receiving end of being helped by neighbours and people in my local community, because I'm not physically able to put my bins out, cut my grass. Neighbours offer to do that, and when I need shopping or so I can't get to the post office because I'm not well enough, I just post online and someone offers to take whatever it is. And I am so grateful. And yeah, and I think when you're in the receiving end of people being so generous, for me, I just what can I do? What can I do for others? That's how I feel. It makes me more generous with my time and energy. What can I do to help out others in ways that I can? So that's one thing. And the other thing is talking about the Bardo State. Yes. Now, I've kind of looked at different kind of teachings in the Bardo State, and there's several out there. But I think, and particularly when it comes to when you mentioned about we're refining our soul, and if we go back to our old self, it's actually a learning process. Like, for example, in my past lives, I was a murderer. And you could see that as a kind of downward spiral. But on the other hand, my soul has learned so much from that perspective. And it has helped me in this life to have more non-judgment as I've become aware of that aspect of ourselves. So sometimes people like Hitler could actually be seen as a saint because he took on that role. His soul took on that role. People in Gaza who are dying, in my belief, is that they have agreed to take on that role of suffering, and their souls have really learnt from that. And I know it's horrible to watch because my heart breaks too. So going back in a sort of what we perceived as negative is actually can be so important for growth and transition and understanding in the long term for our souls and for the society. Anyway.
Very well said, Mac. Very well said. Lily, I'm going to say one thing and then I'll kick it over to you. I believe it's in the audio of the 26th gene key, but I'm not positive on that. Richard talks about a pretty interesting thought experiment or what if, which is Judas, the betrayer of Christ. That man was probably one of the most despised souls that has ever been on this planet. What if he knew that he needed to do that? What if Christ asked him to do that? Like, there's just so much that we don't know, that we can't see, that pertains to what Mac is talking about. And think about the level of courage and devotion that it takes to be willing to be hated for millennia. But that's what was asked of you. Lily.
So speaking into this topic, it's really timely. And I have a question, honestly, or I'm not sure. I just want to share because I completely understand what Mac has said and what you're saying, and I mentally obviously comprehend that this is how it is, and death is just a transition, and we all need these things and whatever. But then, how do we deal with the grief? For example, today I'm dealing with a lot of grief for people who I don't even know. The football player who just died today, and I cried. I cried so many tears because I saw pictures of him getting married 10 days ago and him having two little children. And I just cried. And I understand that his soul signed up for this. And I can see, mentally comprehend that this is how it was meant to be. But in my human body, I am still feeling grief. And it is such a painful feeling. And I know it's for transformation. But how do you deal with it when it's so painful? Actually have to go through it. So that's my day today.
Court, can I call on you here?
Yes.
Could you speak to that a little bit?
How can you hold it?
Yeah. Move it, whatever you want to, whatever road you want to go down there.
Sure. Yeah. So I missed the first half of this conversation. So if I'm repeating myself at all, please take me in a different direction. But Lily, I've been struggling with there's something similar. It's just so hard to hold how much is going on. And in a transition, it's like you have to hold your personal plus the collective. There's just so much. And the practice that has been really nourishing for me, something that I'm kind of stuck on right now, is finding ways to be witnessed and held that aren't necessarily by another person. Like sometimes when you're in that grief, when you're in that transition, it's hard to bring that to somebody else in the midst of it. And so finding ways to be held by trees. Like I like to go out into the forest, like letting nature hold you. If you have a pet, sitting with that pet. Um, Beauty, things in beauty can hold you. It can be an inanimate object that brings you some sort of just like co-regulation, some sort of resonance that grounds you in the moment, and allowing yourself to feel to your own capacity the extent of it while being held in something that you trust. Again, like trees are really doing it for me right now. The ocean has been really doing it for me. Like these huge, vast, ancient things that are just stable and they're there, and you sit with them and they ask nothing from you, and just letting whatever comes come. I think also having the ability to feel the duality of like the intensity of some of the things that come in the collective and transition, while also finding space to find joy and fun and play. So like you don't have to be completely overtaken by these things, feel them, but also is there a moment of fun in that celebration? Like somebody has left this earth and it's very sad, but what can we celebrate in that moment as well? So not bypassing by any means, but just also trickling in both pieces of it. Is that
That's
helpful? Do you want me to go deeper into that?
very, very helpful. Thank you. And that's actually exactly what I did. I went to the forest and I told the trees, please take it from me because I can't take it today.
Exactly.
And I felt instantly better. And then I apologized to them and I said, I'm sorry, I always bring you shit, but you really helped me. So that's exactly what I did. Thank you.
They want to, like we are
Yeah.
part of nature, and nature and forces within nature want us to be in relationship with them. Like that is how healing the world will happen, is when we realize we're all part of this ecosystem. And so like going to trees, going to the horizon's a great one, like looking into the cosmos, whatever it is that holds you, they're so happy to stand there and be that level of stability. So there never needs to be any kind of like apology. They want to be in that kind of relationship with you.
Thank you, Courtney. And even just you validating this for me was another way to release this grief. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I'll just add, like the trees, for me, it's the ocean. It will hold it all. Like it has the capacity to hold it all because it remembers its infinite and divine nature, right? It doesn't have this separate mind that is can be difficult for us sometimes. And there is something to be said for honoring those things when you're not in that space of need. Meaning, like, this is something that I've done recently is Court went to Peru last year and came back with a big bag of mapacho, which is sacred tobacco. And I made this canvas bag and I got a bunch of tobacco that I keep in there. And every time I go to the ocean, I grab a pinch out with me, and I walk down to the water and I introduce myself and I share my intention for being there. And I honor the ocean by offering that tobacco to it. And it doesn't need to be tobacco. It could be sugar. It could be salt. It could be just about anything, you name it. It's honestly, I think you could probably do it with nothing. Like if you have the intention of walking down there and just doing it, I think that's ultimately what matters.
That's correct. I agree with that. Just some level of recognition of reciprocity. Like I'm not extracting, I'm not taking. I see what you're bringing to me and I want to bring something to you. And that can be a prayer. It can be a thank you, but just some level of thank you for what you're doing for me. And I want to offer this to you as well.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. It just light bulb went off for me because Lily was talking about death and Selima was talking about celebration and I was talking about transitions, and I'll be damned if that's not the 42nd gene key. Exactly. So it's expectation, detachment, celebration, and it's all about letting go. It's all about death. It's all about understanding that death is actually a celebration.
Yeah, that's how I felt around two meaningful deaths. I felt you made it. That was my feeling. You made it. And it was a celebration feeling. Last week, my sister and I released our younger sister's ashes into the ocean, the West Coast. And it was like it really did feel like returning her and that being received.
Hmm.
And circumstances made it the perfect time.
Yeah. What's
And
her name, Cheryl? Do you mind sharing?
Diane.
Diane.
Mhm.
Let's just take a sec for Diane, huh?
Mm.
Just honoring the great chain. One life ends, another life begins. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah, she thanks you too.
Of course.
Mm. She had a lot of challenges in this life in her physical and mental body.
Mm.
So when she died, unexpectedly, suddenly, it was like her soul has said, this is enough. You've done your work.
Mm.
And so it was a celebration for me, helped very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Jay.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Cheryl.
Mhm.
Man, I really love you guys and these calls. I really do. So going back to this kind of transition, separation of light and dark, choice moment, what do I want to do? Do I want to step into the void and into the unknown and sacrifice everything that I've known up until this moment? Or do I go back? And we've already said that both of those are okay choices. The issue and why transitions can be so difficult, I think, is that to take this to Mickey Singer's work, there is Shakti, right? This divine energy that is trying to push up through our body and reconnect us to divine energy and the kind of higher current. It's constantly pushing its way up through us. And what happens throughout our lives is we develop sanskaras, which are these energy signatures that create blockages of that Shakti. So this energy is trying to move vertically through our body and it's getting blocked and deflected and bounced all around because of these different constrictions that we carry that come from the things that we experience largely in our childhood. And this is why the Venus work is so deeply important, is we can start to remove these blockages and allow the Shakti to move straight up and through. But the thing is that the blockages came because of pain. That's the reason a blockage was formed, is because there was too much voltage. There was just it hurt too badly. You didn't have the tools to face it in that moment. And so it got stuck. So it was stored with pain and it is going to release with pain. That's what we feel in the midst of these transitions as the Shakti is pushing up and our soul is calling us to do something new and to step into something new. And it's so exciting. And at the same time, that Shakti is running into that blockage because it needs to be cleared. It is the thing that's stopping you from being able to move into the other side of the transition. But that clearing process is incredibly painful. And so what ends up happening is we can't, again, the voltage becomes too high. So the voltage came too high when the block showed up. And if we can't sit with this blockage, if we can't sit in the discomfort, what ends up happening is the Shakti, the energy comes out through the blockage. Meaning, if this original energy signature was something that came up where your parents were screaming at one another and you had this deep level of insecurity and fear, and that's what's causing this block. As the Shakti pushes up in this transition and you're being asked to step into a situation that is going to cause that fear, we can sit in it and allow that blockage to move, or you are going to recreate that exact same pattern in your life. And that is just the Shakti, the energy moving through the blockage instead of being able to move through you. And it's a big part of the reason that we get stuck in these repeating cycles. So I think the way to get through a transition, and this, we're going to start kind of intellectual here, and I'm going to work it down into the actual body. A big part of it starts with the 29th gene key, which is commitment, half-heartedness, commitment, devotion. And this is the message that I got last night ×3, once from Courtney, once in a dream, once when I had a message when I woke up this morning that was somebody that sent me a paragraph from the 29th gene key. Can't make that shit up. Um, the 29th gene key is about making good luck, which is an interesting thing to think about. But we have an ability to create good fortune in our lives. And the way that we do that is by being committed to whatever it is that we are doing. If there is not full commitment when we start a transition or a process, it is doomed at some point to fall apart. So even if you feel like you make it through the transition, if there was not full commitment in the process, there will be a time, a day, a month, a year, 10 years down the line, where you're going to have to walk through that transition again because the seed was not pure. And so it's just full commitment. And I love the one-liner that Richard has that I always say, which is 99% commitment is no different from 1% commitment. You're either in or you're out. To quote the brilliant Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. The 29th gene key was actually called the abysmal in the I Ching. That was the ancient name for it, the abysmal. And it's all about this idea of a transition, of crossing a chasm, of going into the abyss so that we can come out on the other side. And it takes 100% commitment to step into the void. And it's not a test. You know, that's how I was thinking about it up until that moment or up until yesterday was like, this is a test. I'm being tested. The level of my commitment to God is being tested. Um, I'm, it was very much like a bar was set. I'm below that bar and I need to change myself in order to step up and meet it. Which obviously, when it's said in that language, you can see how that is not the most healthy thinking in the world. But I think that's what a lot of us do, right? If we're thinking it in the lens of this is a challenge, well, follow that train of thought. That means you're not meeting the challenge at this exact moment. And so I'd like to offer a reframe, which is this process of transition and asking for commitment is a stretch. That's what it is. You are being stretched. You're being pulled along by something that you do not understand. And you already are exactly what you need to be. You're just stretching into this part of yourself that you haven't fully been able to contact yet. And the last thing I'll say about this from an intellectual standpoint is that these transitions are initiatory processes. So I just started re-listening to a series called The Alchemy of Initiation by a guy named Francis Weller. And I really, really, really recommend this series. It's like $50, I think. You can get it on his website. It's 5 lectures. Each lecture is a couple hours long. It is brilliant. It's about alchemy. It's about initiation and the lack of initiation. So in our current society, we just have lost the rites of passage and the rites of initiation that used to be prevalent in all of our tribal cultures. And the reason that those initiations came were because they typically happened in adolescence. And we all maybe remember what it was like during that period of our lives. And there started to be an energy of acting out and creating mayhem. And that was a signal to the tribe that the initiatory process needs to happen because that energy needs to be guided into something else. And we've lost that. And so what ends up happening is we're moving through the world with the stance of an adolescent. We're moving through the world as somebody that is dying to figure life out for themselves, to make it work for themselves, to we just lose track that we are here so that we can contribute to the tribe. And that's what an initiation was all about. It was about killing off the adolescent. And in some cultures and tribes, they literally had a funeral for the child that left so that the man or woman that came back could be the full new expression of somebody who puts the tribe and community first. So the thing is, our soul remembers initiation. And it is what forces us into initiation. And these transitionary processes are our soul forcing us into an initiatory process so that we can come out on the other side as something totally different and totally new. To be reborn, to bring it to the 49th gene key, which I saw in the chat at some point. Mac, what you got?
Thank you. You mentioned the 29. And that really feels like, I don't have it in my gene keys, but I do have it in my Pluto in human design, both unconscious and conscious. And it feels more like, rather than flow, it feels like, what's the word? I'm losing words. When you're pushing.
Force? Force,
and it's the culture out there where you just have to push through.
Hustle.
Hustle, thank you. And it feels very much like that. And the paradox is we need to be gentle. And I'll give you an example. I became depressed when I was 22, and it was the worst time of my life. And it's because partly I was grieving and I wasn't allowed to grieve, externalize it because of the relationship I was in. Anyway, so I suppressed it. So that kind of built up. And then a situation happened where it mirrored part of the reason why that grief was there. It kind of all compounded. And so I went into a depression. And it took me a year, feeling as if I was just gripping on this deep well with my fingertips, just trying to survive, that I find, and any attempt for me to do all my past tools just weren't working because it was so painful. Until I allowed myself to let go and just surrender and fall into that abyss. And that was the way out. But that took time. And yes, I decided to take that full 100% commitment, but it doesn't happen overnight because you need to be gentle. And it took me that time to be able to work all that things out. And I had counselling and all the rest of it, medication, but that didn't work. It's something I needed to do for myself.
Yeah, I agree. Wholeheartedly agree. It's the only way through is through. You got to fall into the hole. What you got, Court?
I just wanted to add in your comments about initiation and especially around Francis Weller's work, I think like a really big aha moment, and I've listened to his series on that 3 or 4 times at this point, is that it's not just that we're missing initiatory processes or things to initiate us. It's that we're missing the infrastructure around those initiatory processes. And what I mean by that is completing this initiation and coming back into community, like being met on the other side when you leave, like think about adolescence, you're leaving adolescence and then you're coming back into community as new self. And that's like that death and rebirth. And when you're not being met by community, by a group, by something that is seeing you and holding you in the new version of self, we don't complete that initiatory process. So a lot of people are going into initiatory, we have some of these rituals and stuff that are popping up, but they're incomplete processes, and you're not actually making it to the other side because the infrastructure is not there. And so I just want to make sure that when we talk about these things, it's not just the rituals, it is the community that holds you and meets the new version of self as you start to nurture that and grow into it.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. There's as I was listening to this yesterday, he talked about ourself used to have many, many, many layers and levels to it, meaning there was us, there was our partnership, and that, going back hundreds of thousands or millions of years, there was no separation there. Our family, our tribe, the world family, and the cosmological family. And if you look at what we have done as humanity throughout time at this point, right? Like clearly communities have fallen apart. Well, actually, let me go a level back. The world is suffering. Communities have fallen apart. Tribes have fallen apart. Family units are falling apart. Partnerships are falling apart. And so we're left with our little tiny self. No wonder we're fucking terrified. And so that's what Cord, I think, is speaking to, is like we need to remember that I am also a community, not part of. I am a community. Like it's a part of me. Ryan.
Yeah, Courtney actually kind of covered some of it, but when you were talking about initiation and just that tribal concept, it can sound kind of hopeless and helpless because it's like we've gotten so far away from it. But as you were saying that, I was like, wow, this really sounds very similar to the stages of individuation as well, too, which is like the very same thing, but it's a little bit more applicable to how we live right now. And there's that stage of separation, and then there's the threshold, and then there's the integration, and really the whole process is going from like external in to internal out. But to both of your points, we can feel like we don't have that tribal community to do that with. So the integration is really important, because we've learned, or at least for me, I'll say myself, I learned the majority of my life that it wasn't okay to be me.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that I'm becoming the real me, or understanding who that is, that on that threshold of re-entering back into somewhere, integration is really important. And so you want that element of safety too, as you reintegrate. So that just kind of came to mind. I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that before, the parallels of those two things, initiation and individuation. And a lot of us don't even learn that process or anything about that process until we fall apart, just from our upbringing, and our parents didn't even know about that. So how could they help us lead us into that too? So I don't know, that just really stood out as you guys were talking.
Totally, dude. Brilliant. Yeah. And I think a big part of individuation was catalyzed by these initiatory processes, or it was like a part of the road, like where you got stuck in your own journey of individuation. That's where the tribe stepped in and helped you to get unstuck, and then welcomed you back and reinforced the new version so that you're not tempted to continue to fall back and get stuck in these same cycles and patterns. So I'm right there with you, dude. That's a really good catch. Yeah, smack.
Thank you. It was basically something, yeah. It was about that. Because we don't have this path of initiation that we have in welcoming the new person, it's like a prisoner or a person commits a crime, they go into prison, and people see them as this criminal. Whether that person has changed or not, that's the way he's perceived. And I'm just giving you an example. But say I behaved in an angry state when I met somebody, people can assume that that's how I am all the time and perceive me in that light. And I think the more that that is reflected back on us, the more that we may feel, internalize it, and think that's who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I want to give some tools to help move through transition, because we just saw that most of the people here feel like they're currently moving through one at the moment. Lily, the word, well, you were there yesterday for the pause. That was, remember, my word was union or unity or unify or something like that. So I was right there with you. So some tools for transition. Firstly, we've got first and foremost to be able to process the intense charge that we're feeling. These initiations, these transitions carry with them immense, immense pressure. And what can feel like very, very intense feelings of anger or frustration or sadness or grief. And if we don't allow that energy to keep rising up, if we allow it to bump into the samskara, we're going to be stuck in this transitionary process and potentially go back. And so the way forward is through, and the way that that energy moves, there's a few different ways. And these are just things that I do and can think of, and I'll open it up, and maybe you guys have some that you want to share too. So number one, when you feel this intense charge, scream, like scream, scream, not like a subtle scream, like a let it rip. If you need to, grab a pillow, hold it over your face. I prefer to go somewhere that is like there's like the ocean or the middle of the woods, and like really and truly just let it rip and scream. But there's something about the primal nature of it every single time that I get this like electric feeling, and it moves the energy in a really, really big way. So that's a good one. Courtney does a scream that's like a slightly silent scream that like that way people don't think I'm murdering her, which I'm grateful for, because that's also something to be aware of if you go the scream route. Kaziel, what you got, dude?
Oh, thank you. Yes. I can definitely attribute to the power of a primal scream is how it was taught to me. Really, just like from the belly, and you got to be careful because you could damage your vocal cords, which I did actually. I couldn't speak for like a week after, but I just felt this powerful ping to share the transmission from the dream arc, the woodpecker. And if any of you see a woodpecker in the next coming time, it's the message of initiation is there or coming, or just be aware. But it has such a powerful transmission, and I just want to share a little excerpt from it because it's so pertinent to this. And I've been immersed in the world of initiation for the last 3 years in a very beautiful and challenging way. Where should I turn here? If you have drawn me into your life now, it means you will shortly be undergoing a powerful initiation. The initiation before you is nothing to fear. If you wish, you may even turn away from it, should you not feel ready. If, however, you feel that it is time, the right time, then prepare yourself. Initiation comes in comes always in an unexpected way, and it tests your ability to remain stable and trusting even under challenging circumstances. Your mind will not be able to resolve the situation you find yourself in. So you are advised not to trust in what it says. So don't trust in what your mind tries to come up with. You must endeavor to continually bring yourself into the present moment and let the feelings or feel the feelings that come. My advice is this: do not react out of fear to your fear. Wait until the initiation subsides. Clarity will emerge in a day or two as long as you keep breathing and taking care of yourself. As you emerge from the emotional aspect of this experience, your life will ask you to respond to the situation in the most impeccable way possible. And the woodpecker is of the 60-second, it's it has a very powerful shamanic symbolism in the dream arc. Is the gateway to the upper realms, and that's what initiation is this walking through this fire of purification, this dissolution of the separate self to access the higher states of being. So that's it. Just a few lines from this is such a powerful discussion right now on initiation, and walking this gene key golden path is a powerful initiation
For sure.
in and of itself, all of them, especially the Venus. But yes, thank you.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I love the dream arc stuff. Is really helpful. Thank you. That's actually one of the tools is present moment awareness. So that was one of the things that he just said is like, we've got to be able to stay with our felt sense in these moments. Meaning like what's going on with your five senses, like feeling into that, and internally what's going on. Like we've got to stay present, because if we get out of that, the loops, and this is where meditation, it can be really hard to do this in the time of transition because the voltage is so high. And so that's why I really encourage everyone to work on developing your meditation practice or your stillness practice, whatever that might look like, because you're gonna need it in these times. Okay. Court, how do you feel about doing a silent scream?
You want me to show you? I don't know if I can do it on command. You basically, so it came from the fact that I was somebody who is not comfortable using my voice. And so I had to like learn to use sound and create sound in a way, like a way that made sense for me at first. And it was just miming, almost like screaming. And then I realized that I didn't need to make noise. Like I was able to release what I needed to. And so you just like put everything that you need to behind it, like you're going to scream, and then just let it go. But it's like the same resonance through your body. So it's not just like being quiet, whispering. It's and like whole body squeezing things. The other thing I was just typing into the chat is like another really effective way to move similar energy is by tightening as much as you possibly can, like fists closed, clamping down in a ball, like small and tight. If you have a towel, twisting that towel, like getting small, 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 holding your breath, whatever's feeling right, and like let that build until you feel you're on the edge. So that's kind of the same as the silent scream. And then you release it with a huge sigh, breath out, just and let that relief kind of wash over your body, and then do it again. You just are kind of like cycling through tightness, release, and it moves that energy through.
Beautiful. Well done. Thank you. Um, yeah, looking in the mirror can definitely be helpful too, for sure. Thank you for that. Okay, so other things like that are helpful. Working out is a biggie for me, like some sort of whether I'm running or lifting heavy weight or whatever it is for that day. It really depends on the energy itself for me. And that's something that you'll learn to connect to and develop if you start to do this practice a little bit more, but a really intense workout can be helpful. Music, creating music, listening to music. But finding a song with the right resonance. Basically, you're looking for a song that has a similar energy to where you are, that allows you to kind of connect into that energy, and you're almost, you and the song are merging. And because the song is moving and in flow, it starts to move that energy within your body. So music can be a really, really good one. Another one, yes, shaking is, I didn't have that specifically on my list, but it's one that I use all the time. So if you're not familiar with TRE, I recommend that you check out TRE, traumatic release. What's the E? Anybody know? Okay, we can Google it. But basically, this is a method. It's very simple. You lay down on the ground, you bring the soles of your feet together, you let your knees drape open, you hold that position for about 30 seconds. You start to raise your knees up and till you start to feel some tension, and you hold there for 30 seconds. You do a glute bridge, so raise your hips up off the ground and you squeeze there and you hold for 30 seconds. And what you'll find is that things are going to start to do this like crazy. Your legs, your belly are going to start to shake. And then you can bring your hips back down to the ground and you'll continue to shake. And you're just allowing that to happen, allowing it to move. It's stuck energy that is trying to move through your body. It's a really, there's videos on YouTube that'll walk you through this process. You're welcome, Lota. Thanks for being here, my dear. Exercises, TRE is the E is exercises. Thank you, Krista. So give those a YouTube. Lily, what you got?
I just want to add another one, which is a little bit out there, but I think it might be helpful. My sister recently bought me a book and said, "Here's something interesting for you finally," because I always read nonfiction. I always read the spiritual books, academic stuff, and she bought me young adult fantasy books. And actually reading literature is so helpful in releasing a lot of tension from your body. And I find that I literally read this young adult fantasy and my mind relaxes. And my sister reminded me that this is the perfect way to release. And I just wanted to share with you all because I know you're all reading your nonfiction, but I invite you to read a little fiction.
Totally. Yeah, I started picking up fiction a couple of years ago again, and it has been a game changer. Yeah, exactly. Play is why that's such a good thing. Throne of Glass. I got sucked down the Fourth Wing world, which if anybody's not read that series, go check it out. Again, I have a thing where I find these books that I'm like the opposite of the target market for, but for some reason I get sucked into them, and that's one of them. Um, Okay, next thing is being held in some capacity. And Courtney already talked about this earlier, so I don't need to crack this open again. What I mean here is getting around something in nature that can take some of the burden from you. Getting around a pet. Of course, people, if you have somebody that you feel safe with, because that's ultimately what this is about. It's about nervous system co-regulation, right? Our nervous systems are designed in such a way that having another thing in that we feel safe with can give us permission to allow things to move through our body that need to move that wouldn't move otherwise. So a perfect example of this is yesterday there was a lot of emotion moving and I was like in a rough spot. And I can't remember what it was, whether it was a noise or like, I don't know, something happened, but immediately all the emotion left me because I had a moment where I didn't feel safe. And so my body was like, whoosh, we're sucking all this back inside because there was just a threat detected. And now is not the time to process this. So if you can't, we are designed as humans to be communal, right? And to have relationships with other people and other things. And it is the way, a way to get our nervous system to see that it is safe enough to be able to move these things. So I can leave that there. Next thing, connecting to your vocation. So when we get into these times of transition, we need to remember why we're here. On a really deep level, like what is the soul mission? What is the dharma that you are here to do? Because it's only that a lot of the time that's going to get you to the other side. Because if you're anything like me, which I think a lot of people are, there's a part of me that doesn't believe that I am worthy, right? That I deserve to be here, that I'm going to be able to get, that I'm going to be able to figure this out, that I'm going to be able to get to the other side. And in order for that part to be released or soothed, maybe, I have to remember that I'm not just walking through this transition for me. That there is a much bigger plan, a much bigger picture that I, on some level, feel like I need to be a part of. And this is just a way of pulling out of our small self and remembering our big ass higher self. Finding time and space to slow down. And it's 2 right now. If anybody's got to go, feel free to boogie out. I'm going to finish this thread. I'm almost done, but just in case anybody's got to go. Time and space to slow down. And we've touched on this one too. And Lily just brought it up with literature, right? Finding something that brings some joy and some innocence to you so that you can actually rest. Because sometimes it's the resting that allows our body, again, to calm down enough that we feel safe enough that we can get back to doing this work and getting to the other side of it. I wanted to do a practice, like a live practice, but which was going to be just some fire breathing. I'm not going to do that right this second, just for time's sake. But if you are interested in doing something today that maybe you've never done before that can help with this, there's what's called breath of fire in yoga and lots of breath work practices too. And basically the idea here is, if you can, ideally mouth will be closed and you're going to push out hard, sharp, and fast through your nose by contracting your diaphragm. So your belly sucks in as we drive this through our nose on repeat. It's like basically 1 per second or even faster. So it's a very quick tempo. There is no inhale. What happens when you force your diaphragm up like that is it naturally will bounce back the other way and you'll feel air will suck back in on its own. So there is no conscious inhale that's happening here. And if you do 30 of those breaths, take a deep breath in and hold for a bit, and then maybe go to like a steady breath of like a 4 or a 6 count in and then a 4 or a 6 count out. Do that for a couple, and then do 2 or 3 more rounds of that breath of fire. It is an incredible tool to allow some of this energy to move and to get back into a little bit more of a parasympathetic state, which is interesting because we're forcing ourselves. It's kind of like what Courtney was talking about before, where we're tensing everything up, right? We're like getting everything really tight. When we're doing that breath of fire, it's actually upregulating our nervous system, meaning it's tapping us into our sympathetic nervous system. But then when we stop, there's this natural downregulation and return. And it goes deeper than the previous state before we started. And so that's why this is something that can be really effective and helpful. So again, it's just a mouth closed. And I'm really actively in my belly squeezing in as I do that kind of that push. It's not happening from the lungs, it's happening from the belly. Um, yeah, the last thing was going to be get out and be held, and then who wants to share? But we've reached our time for today. So I will just open it up. Does anyone else have anything that they want to share? I want to just offer the space before we close down the circle for today. Okay. Um, in school, there are going to be some calls that pop up from time to time that are going to be kind of last minute things. So just keep your eyes peeled for those. Like I did one last Saturday that we kind of opened up the business rabbit hole a little bit. I did one yesterday that was the pause. These are coming basically with like 12 to actually 6 to 24 hours notice. They'll go on the calendar. I'm testing out things. What are you guys showing up to? What feels good? What doesn't? And the things that seem to go well will add to the calendar consistently is kind of what I'm thinking here. So there will be more ongoing calls, I guess, is what I'm saying that are going to be part of this. So keep your eyes peeled there. And then the last thing is just I have a post up now and there will be another one. I'm going to kind of post about it a bit over the next 10 days is this group that I have called the Bolt that is all about basically the synthesis of this group came from this deep, deep sense that like we're now is the time. Like what Selena said earlier of just everyone is feeling like we're in this space that there is something coming and nobody knows what it is, but it's like where it's started. Like I used to tell myself it's coming, it's here. And so I'm really, really feeling the urge to help get people grounded and find a sense of stability. And so I'm going to do an 8-week, twice a week, deeper series. A lot of it is the activation sequence work, but we're also going to do like specific practice calls. We're also going to be doing like kind of community Q&A, like group mentorship coaching, specific like profile type calls. It is, I've never done anything like this in the past. Everything up until this point has been like very long term and very expensive. I just wanted to make something more accessible for everyone. Like I know Sonia is going to be joining us there. Mac and I are talking about it. Lily, I know, is committed to being there. I've got another guy, Jay, actually, who is in. So it's starting to take shape and come together. And I think it's going to be potent. So if anybody has questions about that, take a look at the posts in the group. All the info's out there. It starts like the 16th of July, I think is the date. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that 100%, but calls are on Wednesdays and Fridays, Wednesday evenings, Friday afternoons. Everything's recorded. If you, it's roughly $750 for the time that we're together. So take a look. There's a post up about it now with a post that I talk about it. And again, there'll be more coming. So I got to mention that because in order to keep doing this work, it needs to be supported in some way, shape, or form. So, okay. Lots of love, guys. Thank you all for being here. Talk to y'all soon.